Hi friends. So I love sewing, if you couldn't tell. But sewing is a very expensive hobby. Like, sewing machines can be hundreds of dollars. Fabric is super expensive. You need like 80 million different colors of thread to be able to match the fabric. You need like all these notions and everything, yada yada yada. It gets a little spency, you know? But there's definitely ways to work around that. You can get secondhand machines, thrifted machines. Yard sales and estate sales can be great places to find thread and notions for a very low cost. You can try just telling anyone and everyone that you know that you sew, because there's like a pretty good chance they'll be like, you know, I have a bunch of stuff that my grandma gave me that I just don't use. Do you want it? I have gotten literal car trunkfuls of craft supplies from people who just want to get rid of things. It's great. Give me all your trash. And there's tons of different alternatives to the typical fabric stores that sell new on-the-bolt materials. Using recycled materials is both cost-effective and better for the environment, because you're preventing stuff from going in the trash and reducing the amount of new material that needs to be made. Also, my main motivation, it's cheap. I already said that. Yeah, I'm looking at this wall of fabric here. This and this and that I've purchased new from the fabric store. The rest is from the thrift store or someone's trash. I love trash. So yeah, I love using recycled materials. I've made tons of stuff out of bed sheets and curtains and tablecloths and the like. But one of my favorite things to do is to think smaller and use less girthy fabric sources, like pillowcases, napkins, that sort of thing. I already have a video on this channel where I made this dress out of some old bed skirts that someone was getting rid of. But my past endeavors in this field include this dress that I made out of some thrifted pillowcases, this shirt and short set that I made out of napkins I got on clearance at Joann's, and this skirt that I made out of shirt sleeves that I cut off long sleeve work shirts for a coworker to turn into short sleeve work shirts. I call it my slurt. So today I would like to make some more garments out of smaller recycled fabric sources. I have 3 pieces planned for today. Technically 4, but 2 of them are going to be a set. So I'm thinking of it as 2, as 1, 3, 1. God, there's a reason I was an art major. I'm thinking of the set as one thing in my mind, so because I'm already at like, making 3 things for one video is a lot. 4, I'm pretending it's not happening. But I have 3 things planned. So here's me showing you those things. So thing the first is actually not recycled fabric. This is a brand new dishcloth that my sister-in-law gave me because she went to California and was like, this is pretty and I know you can make something nice out of it. So, sorry it's not recycling, but like, come on. It's got quail. So I'm going to be using this to make a little lightweight summer top that ties up along the sides. I've been seeing these all over Pinterest and I think they're very cool and I like them, and they also don't use a lot of material because this is a tea towel. Thing the second, I want to make a skirt and corset set using these placemats that I got at the thrift store. I love them. I love the like floral, like chintzy grandma couch look. They're very nice. They have a black lining, so I'm probably going to take them apart and use both layers. So I want to make a kind of color blocked corset top and mini skirt set. So thing the third is probably the piece I am most excited about because I've been seeing stuff like this online for years and I've been obsessed with them for years and I want to make one. And that is a tie skirt. I have so many. This coat hanger is gonna be like permanently warped from holding all these ties. But yeah, I want to sew them up and make a skirt. My goal is to make it kind of pleated. I'll talk more through that when I actually start making it. This hurts my hand. Yeah, I got a bunch of thrifted ties. I got all these ties. 29 of them for $3. So I went to Goodwill to look for ties and I was like, oh, I'll just like start buying like 2 or 3 at a time every time I go to the thrift store and just kind of slowly stock up, expecting them to be like $2 or $3 a piece at most. They were at the low end $5 a piece, and that was for like the cheapest, crappiest novelty ties that you buy for like a Christmas party. Like the decent ones were like $7 to $10 for one, and I was like, okay, this project's gonna be way more expensive. But then I went to my favorite little thrift store, my favorite local thrift store. It is one of those weird little hole-in-the-wall carpeted rooms that's just very strange. It has some tons of little nooks and corners, and they had like 3 big bins full of ties, and they were $1 a piece, and I was like, thank God. So I was just like digging through. I'll get like 30 bucks one go for a skirt worth of material. That's reasonable. These are technically silk. $30 for a silk skirt. Who's bothered about that? So I get like 29 of them that I really like. I get up to the register and I'm like, there's 29 of them. I counted already. I'll help you count them if you want to like verify to make sure. And the lady at the register's like, oh, you're buying ties? We've had these in for months. I'm so glad we're getting rid of them. Just take them, $3. And I was like, okay, sure. Oh, these are all sliding off. I need to put this down. So, these are the plans. These are the goals. These are the objectives. Let's frickin' do it. Let's go. Starting with the tea towel shirt, I wanted to do a mock-up to make sure I could get the design placed on my pattern pieces in the way that I wanted, so I traced the artwork onto some scrap fabric. The pattern I ended up with is super simple. It's a kind of squashed hexagon for the front, a big rectangle for the back, and a bunch of skinny rectangles for the straps and ties. I started with the front. I hemmed the top and bottom edges, and then attached 6 of the ties to the sides. I did the same thing with the back, hemming and attaching the ties, and then attached the straps. I crisscrossed the straps in the back and attached the other ends to the top edge of the front, and to wear this, you just put the straps over your shoulders and tie up the sides. Finished up the tea towel shirt, but I'm going to show you all the finished pieces at the very end all together, so you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. As a consolation, here is my cat licking himself in a very funny way. Next thing I'm working on is the placemat set. So right now I'm just unpicking the backs of the placemats off from the front, but I want to be able to use the black fabric on the back with the, it's not a brocade, is it? I don't know what to call it. It reminds me of like my grandma's couch. I don't know what this fabric's actually called, but I want to use the front fabric and the back fabric together in the pieces that I'm making. So I'm unpicking them. So for this corset, I decided to modify a pattern that I already have and have already used. It's this stays pattern from American Duchess. I've used it before to make these pink stays, cat not included. Stay out of the closet. It's Pride Month. Okay, I have made the jankiest mock-up. I just have like whole zip ties stuck in for the boning. They're like tucked into my pants. You can see this one's like sticking out. I didn't bother putting in the lacing strip, so I just like stitched up where the lacing will be. I still have the needle in on this side, and I just stabbed my arm on it. So but long story short, I've adapted the pattern the way I need to. The final thing will have more layers and be more structured and have more boning, and we'll do that. But I got it to fit. I'm gonna go take the zip ties out of my pants. Oh. Hello friends, I have a bit of a change of plans. I did film this when I was seam ripping the backs off the placemats. The black fabric was shedding a lot. I was getting this like really fine powder, like linty stuff. And I'd already washed them before, so I was like, that's weird. So I hand washed them, and just no matter how many times I like washed them and rinsed them out, I was just getting more and more of this like black dust, and I couldn't get rid of it, and I didn't understand. Just like more and more kept coming out and like wouldn't go away, so I was like, I don't know. And then I stopped, and my hands felt kind of weird and like itchy and burny. And then I did a little research, and I found out in the past they used to make fabric out of fiberglass sometimes, so I've just thrown that away. I don't know if it's fiberglass. I don't know if it's just like degrading fabric and it's gonna wear away and degrade. The brocade stuff is fine. I've been handling it for like an hour and I feel fine. I did wash it again, and I got like the first rinse I got a little bit of black dust, and then after that no more. So this stuff is good, which is good. It's good. So the pretty stuff is good. The black fabric, we're shifting gears. I have this bit of black satin in my stash. It was a remnant, so I'm using this in place of the backings of the placemats. And then I've got some just white cotton that used to be bed sheets to use as linings. I was debating when I realized I couldn't use the backs of the placemats whether or not I should find some other material that I could use instead and continue with my original plan, or just do the corset and do it all out of this. But I really like the color blocking look that I'm going for, and I want to be able to have a top and a skirt and be able to like wear them as a set or like mix and match or whatever. I'm gonna finish ironing these placemats, and then I'm gonna figure out how I'm laying out my pattern pieces, and then we can start cutting things out and start sewing. So you can see it's a little bit more fabric than what we had with you're not helping. So you can see it's slightly more fabric than what I had from just the backs of the placemats, but this fabric doesn't make my hands burn, so I'm gonna use this one. So I decided to do a bag lining for this corset as opposed to flat lining. Once it was turned right side out, I did some top stitching around the edges to secure the seams. And then I marked and sewed all the boning channels. For this front panel, it was a little odd because the boning channels met at the bottom point, so they kind of intersected each other, so I had to stitch one and then insert the boning and then stitch the next one, but it all worked out, and I'm just using zip ties as boning for this piece. So that finished off the front panel, so I basically repeated all those steps with the rest of the corset. So I finished the main body of the corset. It's super cute, and I'm gonna try it on to see how long I need to make the straps, and I haven't really been able to try it on. I've done like test put-ons, but like I can't lace it up because there weren't any grommets, so I had to wait until now. And so this is the first time I've really tried it on, and it's way too big. It's huge in the back. So I don't want to lose so much of the pattern because it's the pretty part, but I like the arm size, like a good size. You can clip this. I'm not holding it. I guess taking it in at the back is the right move, but that's so sad. You know, it's not too much less. I mean, there's a lot out, but like, it'll still look good. So yeah, I'm gonna take the boning out of the center back. I don't really need boning in the center back. I don't know why I put boning in the center back, to be quite honest, but I did, and I'm gonna take it out. But otherwise, it's super cute. Yeah, this bottom bit's kind of uneven. Like, just don't look at that part. I'll tuck it in. Let me tuck in my corset. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. So I finished taking in the back of the corset, not too much trouble, came out pretty nicely. I was able to go ahead and just put the boning back in the center back. It doesn't really need it, but I could fit it into the seam allowance, and I was like, I already have it cut and ends rounded, and why not? So that's done. And then I went and took a walk, and it started raining, so that's why I look damp. I'm going to lace it back up and then try it on again. Make sure the fit is good, and then see how long the shoulder straps need to be. I had a very nice walk, in case you were wondering. I could hear, as I was like rounding the corner to get back onto my street, I could hear like a bunch of birds, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of birds. And then I found something on the ground that I thought was like an eggshell, like a baby bird had hatched and the shell had fallen, and I was like, oh my god, that's so exciting, and I went to pick it up. And I realized it wasn't an eggshell, it was like the skin from some kind of like fruit, and I was like, oh, okay, something ate a berry type thing of some sort, and then left the skin on the ground, whatever. And then I found another one, and the birds were getting louder. And then I remembered that my neighbor has lychee trees that are in season, and that's where all the birds were. They were going to town on those lychee. And then I started finding like the pits, the little like black seed pits that are in lychee, and I was like, oh man, they're chowing down on these little guys. And then I heard one hit the ground, and I was like, oh, that's gonna hurt. They're just dropping them from the trees. So I like hustled back to my house, back to shelter. It was just so funny. There were so many of them, and there were just so many skins just all over the ground, and just the pits, and like a couple like squashed fruits, and just so many crows just eating lychees, having a grand old time. My neighbor's gonna be devastated, I'm so sorry, but the birds had a good time at least. This is how many lychee pits I found in my yard the next day, just to show you how severe the carnage was. But with the back taken in, the corset was fitting quite nicely, and I was able to measure how long I needed to make the straps. I cut those out of my placemat material and some of the black satin, and I made the lining layer a little bit bigger so it would roll over the edges and add a nice little detail along the edges of the straps. Okay, so the corset is all done, other than some last little bits I need to do with the ribbons and the lacing. So now I'm going to work on the matching skirt. So I'm going to start by making a tube out of the 2 remaining placemats and the black fabric that is as wide as the widest part of my hips, so it can fit over, and then do some tweaking and zhuzhing from there. And I guess I should put a zipper in it at some point, but yes, that's the plan, and I'm going to execute such plan. I'm gonna make a skirt now. Okay. I don't know why I'm so defensive about it, but I am. So I spent a long time messing around trying to work out the pattern for the skirt, because initially I wanted the black panels to fit between the brocade panels like this and kind of match those cut corner edges. I didn't want to make it a straight line across the top edge like this. I thought that would look too boring. So I spent a long time working out how to pattern this out, and I got it all figured out, and then when I was cutting it out of the black satin, I messed up my cuts and didn't have enough material to actually fit everything on the fabric. So I ended up doing just the straight line across the top like this. I decided to do flat fell seams for the skirt, so I pressed my seam allowances open and then folded the edges under and stitched them down. So I got a nice clean finish on the inside and some decorative top stitching on the outside. And then I installed the zipper by just stitching it on over top of one of the seams and then seam ripping that seam open to be able to access the zipper. And then I sewed in some darts along the top edge to add some shaping, and then I added a waistband. I didn't film any of the waistband process because it was very boring and I was so tired, but trust me, I did it. To make up for that, here's my cat licking his butt on top of the corset that I just finished. Then I was able to finish off the corset with some green ribbons for lacing, and off camera I actually seam ripped open the back and added hook and eye closures to be able to get this on and off a lot easier without having to unlace it. But with those final additions, the placemat set was all done. Okay, so the tea towel shirt is done, the placemat, corset, and skirt are done. So now it's time to start the final piece that I have planned, the tie skirt. So I have my massive ties here. So I want the skirt to be kind of pleated, so I'm thinking I can use the ties structure to my advantage and do kind of like box pleats. So what I'm thinking is I'll cut the ties in half and then have the wider end as the outer face of the pleats and have the thinner end as the inner face of the pleat. So it'll be like outside, inside, and I can kind of just stitch them together like that. Yeah, and then have the next tie, and then the inside, and it's pleats, right? So that's the plan. I'll probably have to put in a drawing here in the video where I explain what I actually mean. Here's what I mean. The way these ties are made are the edges are folded in towards the center once and then twice to get a nice finished edge. So what I'm going to do is undo the stitching on the skinny end that keeps the edges folded into the middle, and then use the existing folds that are already pressed into the tie to create the folds of a box pleat. So I'll take a wide end of a tie and the skinny end of a tie, and then stitch them together in a way that creates a box pleat, like this. But before I get into cutting all these ties apart, I wanted to kind of go through and show you guys some of my favorite ones. This one's cute. It's got little shamrocks. This one, that's got like suns and stuff, like anchors and like compasses. This one has penguins. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? I love them. The back is kind of terrifying because you get like weird two-headed penguins. This one I think is my favorite. It's got like Victorian ladies and children on like rocking horses and playing croquet. I don't understand, but I love it. And then like honorable mention to the bowling tie. I do hate bowling, but it's a pretty good tie. And the rest of them are just like paisleys and florals and stripes and They're very nice, but they don't have penguins or bowling or bowling penguins. That would be pretty sick, but alas. Okay, so let's get to chopping. And then I started cutting all my ties in half. So I made sure all the wide ends were all the same length, and all the skinnier halves were a little bit longer than they needed to be, so I could cut them down. I had a lot of help from my apprentice. He made sure that quality control was kept up to standards. I picked all of the stitching on the back of the skinny halves of my ties, and then I was able to pull out all of the interlining inside of them. So once all of my ties were all deboned, I was able to move on to pressing. So, like I said, my initial plan was to use the folds that already existed on the ties to create the shape of the box pleats. So I went through and I pressed all of the skinny halves to make sure that the existing folds were nice and crisp, and then I pinned and stitched up my first box pleat, and I realized that if I attached the skinny halves the way that they came folded, you would see the wrong side of the material from the outside of the skirt. So I realized they were all basically ironed inside out. Did I mention I pressed all of them already? So I gave up for the day and went to bed, and then in the morning I started over and repressed my ties and went one by one and started sewing them in. Now that I had all of my ties oriented the correct way and had the right side of the fabric facing the right way, I was able to start stitching up all my box pleats. I decided I wanted to put some pockets into the skirt because why wouldn't I? So I cut out some pocket shapes out of some random scrap fabric that I had, stitched those in at the side seams, and then sewed up the side seams and around the edge of the pocket. So then I leveled off the top edge of the skirt and installed a zipper. It's a zipper. And then I unpicked the back seam of another tie to use as the waistband, which I actually filmed the process for this one. So I stitched that on by machine and then finished the edge with some hand sewing. And then I stitched on a hook and eye to keep the waistband closed, and this button that I had in my stash as a decorative finishing touch. And with that, all of the pieces were done, and it's time for the reveal. editing Amelia here. I realized I forgot to film an outro for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. I had a lot of fun making all of these pieces. I love the way all of them turned out. If I had to pick, I think I'd say that the tie skirt is my favorite, but I love all of them and I'm so happy with all of them. Feel free to tell me which one was your favorite down in the comments if you are so inclined. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you're interested in seeing more. I have a really big Halloween project planned that I'm hoping to start soon. It's the middle of August, it's basically Halloween, right? Right? Yes, correct. It's gonna be really cool and hopefully done before the end of October, so subscribe to see if I actually meet a deadline for once. Tune in to find out. But thank you for watching. I know this was a really long video. If you've gotten this far, I'm impressed, frankly. But thank you for watching. Bye! You wanna say goodbye? Say goodbye? He says bye. Okay, you're free.